Hey everyone, this is Scott from Forgot to Curl Up. Welcome to our 10 Things I Love from Star Wars Attack of the Clones. So today I'm just going to be talking about 10 things or specific examples of stuff that I love from Star Wars Attack of the Clones. Yes, I love everything about Star Wars, but these are just 10 things upon my most recent rewatch of it leading up to The Rise of Skywalker that, again, upon rewatching that I noticed and it was like, yeah, I love that thing. I love that scene. I love that little bit, that little character moment. And so yeah, I'm going to be just going over those 10 kind of things. 10 is just kind of a rough number, and there's no particular order other than these are kind of listed off in the order they kind of happen in the movie, because that's how I wrote them down as I was doing my notes. So yeah, let's just get started with the 10 things I love from Star Wars Attack of the Clones. So to start off with, I love the opening with Padme's decoy, which yes, there's an unfortunate scene to see somebody die, but I like it as a nod to the first one. We still see that she's working with decoys, she's still putting other people's life at risk, but to protect her, and that people still want her dead because she is this kind of controversial, maybe not controversial, but she is a more outspoken political figure in the Senate, from at least from the perspective that we get. And so yeah, I really like that we open it up with seeing this kind of nod to that first one, kind of seeing where we are at in the galaxy in a sense, which is she's now a senator and people are still trying to kill her, which is just like, but she got a demotion and you people still want to just kill her? Okay. But yeah, so I really like that, which then kind of also leads to our bringing in our Jedi's into this, bringing Obi-Wan and Anakin 10 years since they had seen her last, since the events of the Phantom Menace. And so I just really like the opening, and that I just like the way that it opens with that and kind of ensuing the events that lead to pretty much the whole movie, which is the way things are supposed to work, right? So yeah, I really like that. Again, this kind of leads to the next thing I love about Attack of the Clones, which is the Obi-Wan and Anakin chasing the assassin through Coruscant. This was just a great kind of just chase scene for multiple reasons. A, you get it through a futuristic city of floating cars. You get to see more of Coruscant. You get to see pretty much where Anakin and Obi-Wan's abilities have come since the first movie. Like, we gotta remember, Obi-Wan was still kind of an apprentice well, not kind of. Obi-Wan was still an apprentice during the Phantom Menace, being Qui-Gon Jinn's apprentice, and then since then he's been he's had Anakin as his apprentice. So it's kind of really interesting that this first kind of chase scene, them chasing this assassin down, we get to see how far their abilities are. They're jumping off stuff. We get to see their not just their abilities, but also their relationship, their dynamic, this kind of brotherly kind of dynamic of them butting heads. But you also kind of see, Obi-Wan clearly knows that he's the older brother, and that he's, you can always see these little things like him calling Anakin his young apprentice and things like that, and you can always see this little like thing about Anakin not liking it. So I just really enjoy that opening scene and giving us this kind of a little bit more of an in-depth introduction to these two and how they work on a mission together and going through this. And again, I really like just exploring Coruscant some more, and a couple nods we get throughout this chase to the other Star Wars films, with it ending up in a cantina of sorts or a bar, and then there being a Death Sticks reference, Obi-Wan waving his hand at somebody, convincing them to go do something different with their life. So yeah, just all these fun little nods. Him cutting off somebody's hand. I think he cuts off her hand. I can't remember exactly now. But yeah, there's just fun chase, and I just love it. The next thing I love about Attack of the Clones is Kamino and the introduction / origin of the clone troopers. This one was really fun because it's just like it kind of sparks from a single line in A New Hope, being that Obi-Wan and and Luke's father, Anakin, fought in the Clone Wars together. So this is just kind of fun way to introduce this idea of what were the Clone Wars and what was going on with them. Remember that big a deal? And they really were. It was a galactic war. So I really enjoy that we get the introduction of Kamino, this cloning planet, and that it kind of, I love that it's this kind of mystery of like, who's the one who ordered these clones, and well, who paid for them is the question I have. Like, did Cypher Diaz pay for them all the way back in the day? And so I really enjoy that it's this mystery we get, and kind of being like Obi-Wan's just trying to figure it out, and they're like, wait, what? We got a bunch of clones ready? We got an army ready for us? I was just looking for an assassin. I was just looking for a bounty hunter, and so I really enjoyed that. And then thus the origin of the clone troopers leading us to Mr. Jango Fett and his son Boba Fett, which again, this is just one of those fun ties and nods. Some people may not like this, that we've only got like 20 characters in all Star Wars sometimes, but I just kind of like it as a idea of kind of being interconnected with these things and kind of learning a little bit of the origin and learning a little bit more about, Jango and how what he contributed to us having all the clone troopers and explaining why they're clones in a sense, and just seeing the kind of where we kind of started off with the stormtroopers in a sense, the clone trooper armor kind of leading to the stormtrooper armor. So all these fun things we get in it, and then also we get to see Jango Fett versus Obi-Wan, which I thought was just a really, really fun fight. Like, we get to see all these abilities of Jango Fett that we never got to really see Boba Fett do too much in the original trilogy. So that was just a really fun fight that I love seeing, and just seeing that. Like, again, it's one of those things where I'm a big fan of when our heroes aren't 100% the best, that they they come out on top, but they also, that people can still put up a fight against them, particularly when you're going up against a bounty hunter in this situation. I like that they seemed almost balanced, or that at least Jango was at least knew how to deal with a Jedi, or was able to handle a Jedi at least. So I like kind of seeing that balance and just seeing them both using their different abilities, and in Jango's case is different equipment and stuff. So I really love that scene. Another scene I really love, from Star Wars Attack of the Clones, is Anakin rescuing his mom, or trying to save his mom from the Tusken Raiders. Yes, this is another one of those kind of brutal scenes, and you're like, why would you like this, Scott? And it's like, I like this because it's like, I get it. He's having all these dreams about his mom, and he goes to check on her, and he finds out that she was kidnapped, and they tried to go save her. No one was able to, and they kind of gave up after one try, it seemed. And so he had to go do it himself. And I just like seeing that he, has the confidence in his abilities, and kind of is also not even thinking it through too much. You see him kind of acting on his emotions, this thing that a pretty, common trait of Anakin throughout this movie in particular, and so seeing it kind of come to fold of him having to go after his mother, and see if these dreams he's been having are correct, and finding her, and all that happens is she dies when he finds her, and just I understand that rage that comes out in him after that, and that thus he takes out on the Tusken Raiders. And I just, again, it's one of those brutal things, and you're like, why would you like something so brutal, Scott? But I like it as a kind of seed, another one of these seeds, another one of these things you see that it's like leads to him becoming Darth Vader one day, him going to the dark side one day. It's these emotions that everyone's telling him that he has to keep in check, that he just can't, and he doesn't see exactly why he necessarily has to, and so I really just see like it as kind of kind of an outlet in this sense, of like a little burst of this future dark side coming out with him taking out the Tusken Raiders, and it being also kind of more justified in the eyes of the good side, in a sense, or the light side of the Force. I really love that scene. Another thing I really love about the Attack of the Clones is the introduction of Count Dooku, one of my favorite Siths, which is really great thing about actually the prequels in general. A lot of really good bad guys I thought they introduced, and in this one we get Count Dooku, a former Jedi who was once the apprentice of Yoda, and once the mentor of Qui-Gon Jinn. So I really love all these little ties to it, and you kind of see, he had this falling out and ended up being recruited by Lord Sidious, and so I really like that. And he's kind of playing as Lord Sidious's pawn, and moving Lord Sidious's pawn in being the leader of the separatist movement, which is causing the Clone Wars and this, disruption in the galaxy, this unrest in the galaxy, I should say. So I just really enjoyed that introduction of him, and then him and Obi-Wan's chat. Obi-Wan's Obi-Wan is his prisoner. So I just really enjoyed that chat, kind of learn a little bit more about their backgrounds and kind of getting it. Yes, it's a little bit what's the word for it? Where they're just explaining things with words as opposed to showing us, but sometimes you gotta do that with certain things. So yeah, I really love that. I really love the introduction of Count Dooku. Another thing I love about about Attack of the Clones, is pretty much everything that happens on Geonosis. I really love when we see Anakin, Padme, and Obi-Wan as prisoners in the arena, and that there are these three creatures, alien creature, monster things, all coming at each of them, and we see, well, to start, Padme is the most, collected about right now. Anakin and Obi-Wan are a little bit more focused on their own dynamic, being Anakin apologizing for disobeying his order, disobeying Obi-Wan's orders, and Obi-Wan just having to say, well, I was right like usual, I told you not to do this, and now you're captured. And while they're doing that, Padme is just like, no guys, I'm not going to get attacked right now, I don't got no force powers, I'm going to climb up here and get and so I really love that scene overall, seeing, the fact that she can continue to handle herself. They don't make her just kind of a damsel in distress all the time character, that this is, again, like Princess Leia, we see that she's, just as formidable and able to handle herself. So I really like that. And then seeing, Obi-Wan and Anakin using their each kind of unique ways of dealing with each of their creatures, which then leads up to the big arrival, which is the next thing I love about Attack of the Clones, which is the arrival of Mace Windu on Geonosis with a bunch of Jedi Knights, just lots of them, and they all show up and they all light the lightsabers up and they do a little move thing, which when I remember when I first watched this, not really noticing as much. On the rewatch, you notice they all do some weird, just like kind of moves, and you're like, these people are by themselves on a green screen, and told, yeah, just pretend like you're lighting up your lightsaber, do some kind of cool, I don't want to say karate, but some kind of cool move, martial arts type move with the lightsaber. And so that was just fun to see their introduction, but also to see a lot of them have very weird, impractical entrance into arriving and trying to seem formidable. But again, I did love that arrival of Mace Windu, and then all the Jedi Knights arriving and lighting the lightsabers up and putting up a fight. But we also see that they're getting overwhelmed by the numbers, and we kind of get this kind of microcosm of what's been happening a lot with it, and why the Jedis themselves can't handle this whole war by themselves. There's not enough of them, even though one Jedi Knight is the equivalent of a lot of soldiers, whatever number you want to pick. You can't just have Jedi Knights fighting things. So I like that we see them kind of dwindling down, and then we think they're overwhelmed, and then we get the arrival of Yoda and the clone troopers, and the kind of official kickoff of the Clone Wars, because the clones are now involved in the war. And so I just really love that, the arrival of it, it's just such a great scene to see every time. It just gives you those kind of warm emotions, being like, they're coming to save the day. Yes, here comes the good guys. Yeah. And so I just really love that. And then that leading to the Battle of Geonosis, this big spanning fight, which we spent a big chunk of the third act watching a bunch of different things, going from seeing different parts of the battle to different things, and seeing how like the Jedi pretty much immediately just are know how to put themselves in the role of generals of the clone troopers, and kind of seeing them all just kind of get into work right away. And I just really love that stuff. So yeah, another thing I really love about the Attack of the Clones is Dooku versus Anakin and Obi-Wan, and we see just what experience versus kind of talent, I guess, is what you would give Anakin in this situation. Just because you're the chosen one, Anakin, doesn't mean you can go running in headfirst to every fight. And so this is how he loses his hand, which again is a nod to the originals. And so I just really love seeing that fight, seeing the confidence that that Count Dooku has in his own abilities, and his abilities against two Jedi Knights. You don't see at any point that he's seems scared, or that he doesn't think he can handle himself. He's quite confident that he's gonna have no problem getting through these two, and he does. He chops off one of his hands, he knocks out the other one, but then as he's about to try to leave, the next thing I love about Attack of the Clones happens, which is Dooku versus Yoda, which is also one of my favorite things in all Star Wars, is because it's the first time we see Yoda A, light up a lightsaber, and B, get a lightsaber fight. And so that was just I love seeing that. Again, we learn in that scene that Yoda used to be the mentor of Count Dooku, so we get to see this kind of mentor apprentice, teacher master thing, or teacher student thing, and so I really enjoy that fight. We get to seeing Yoda just jumping around. Some people don't like the style. I like it. I like the idea of Yoda, who normally is walking around as like old. He's got the cane, but when he wants to turn it on and channel pretty much, and the way I think of it is he's channeling the Force at that point, and so I just love that he's able to turn it on. We see that he's able to handle Dooku pretty much completely until Dooku, puts the other guys at even more at risk, and Yoda has to then, save them and let Dooku escape. But I just love that fight. I love seeing Yoda fight, and it was awesome, and I love it. But yeah, the last thing, or last example in this video at least, that I love about Star Wars Attack of the Clones is the ending, which I kind of already talked about bits of, but the very ending, the last few scenes we get, which is we see after Dooku escapes, he goes and meets Lord Sidious, and we see this particular line from Lord Sidious, which is everything's going to plan, which I'm just like, I love that, because that's what the prequels are all about. Is about, well, I've said that a few times, but one of the things that the prequels is all about is about how Palpatine became the Emperor, and that this is one of those things, him setting up the war, being on both sides of the war and setting it up. So I just really love that it ends off the second one with that little line. And then the other thing, another line from Yoda near the end of the movie is, the shroud of the dark side has fallen, begun the Clone War has. And I was like, I just love that idea of just it being such a kind of significant moment in the Star Wars universe, kicking off and leading into other stuff, leading to a whole cartoon series, which I really love. I love the Star Wars, the Clone Wars cartoon series. It's just great, and adds on to the kind of mythology of this and building even more onto it. But we wouldn't have had it without this movie. So yes, that's the last of the 10 things I love about Star Wars, the Attack of the Clones. I always want to call it the Clone Wars. But yeah, the 10 things I love from Star Wars Attack of the Clones. Be sure to let me know in the comments below what you love from Attack of the Clones. Thanks again for joining me today. Subscribe to the channel if you already, and have a good one.